So one thing that I really like are simplistic, minimalistic type nature scenes. And there's so many different ways to approach that. And if you can pull it off, those types of images really draw in people's attention. So what I thought I would do is create some videos, this one being the first, that just really emphasize my approach to capturing those types of images, and hopefully maybe give you some tips and maybe some inspiration to capture these types of images as well. So for this video, I'm going to take you out to Chokoloskee Bay, where it is probably the most difficult location for me to try to capture a compelling scene. And I'm going to take you out there and just demonstrate to you my approach for capturing a landscape or waterscape that has a lot of negative space to it, and let's see if we can make it work. Good morning from Chokoloskee Bay. So for this video, what I want to talk about is a type of photography, or really a type of image that I really love to photograph. And you know, if you've taken the time to look at any of my photographs in my galleries on my website, you'll notice that a lot of my scenes, a lot of my images are just very simple, you know, the lone tree type shot with a lot of negative space. Now, I am in the Gulf of Mexico right now, in the middle of the 10,000 islands. This is a really unique ecosystem. It's very unique to Florida. And what you're looking at here is you're looking at a large body of water that is just riddled with these oyster bars. That's what these mounds of, they look like mud, but really what it is oyster shells, very sharp oyster shells, and they are all over the place. I'm standing amongst them right now. Walking around here is not easy, and you have to be extremely careful when you are, because you know, if you were to fall and cut yourself on one of these things, it could be a really bad situation. So nevertheless, despite its being very inhospitable, what I really like about this place is that because it is so tidal, meaning water is receding and coming in usually twice a day, you'll see changes, very dramatic changes of 2 to 3 feet. And what I like about that is that it really changes the face of this bay dramatically. And the way that the water interacts with these oyster shells is just very dynamic. The tidal changes really affect that movement. And I also really like how the light from the sun reflects off that movement. And you'll see all these different tones of blues and, you know, swirling patterns of varying tones that I just really like to try to capture that. So what I do with my tripod is, for this particular landscape, is I try to get the tripod up as high as I can. And the reason for that is I want to have a perspective, you know, kind of angled downward to see more of the water and the movement of the water in the composition. So I have to get it up fairly high, and it makes it a little more difficult for me to see, especially with the sun back here. But, you know, if I let my eyes adjust, eventually I can see it. So I just try to compose an image where I can capture, you know, some of that water flow and just have that large sky in the background. What I would really like to see is to have some clouds come into the sky, because once those clouds get in, you start seeing some reflections on the water. So that just adds a little more interest. And yesterday I, you know, had some wistful type clouds in the sky that kind of helped the composition out a little bit. I have the shutter speed, it's at 1/100th of a second, and my ISO is at 100, and I have an aperture of f10. Now, you know, like I have said in the past, I like my apertures to be somewhere between f8 and f11, so I'll play around within that range. But right now, that shutter speed is a little faster than what I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a 6-stop filter, and that should get it down to a fraction of a second. Okay, right now I have the 6-stop filter in there, and that got me to a shutter speed of 0.6, so about a half a second. So with this big sky as the background, I'm going to try to come up with some different compositions here. So I'm going to walk around a little bit and try out some different things here. So stay with me for a little bit. So just a little bit about my settings. Again, ISO is at its lowest. You know, it's pretty bright. The sun is pretty high, so I don't want a lot of ISO going on. My aperture has been at my standard, range, usually about f11, f10. And my shutter speed, I had it as fast as a quarter of a second, but I've been generally shooting at about a half a second, which just gives the water enough blurriness, kind of helps blend that in a bit. As far as composition goes, again, I've been doing some vertical as well as horizontal. So I'm using the water mostly as the foreground, and the sky is the blank negative space in the background. And of course, that white bird just adds just a tiny bit of interest to the scene as well. Thank you for looking on, and we'll see you out there somewhere next time.